This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. I'm Erica Lukes here on UFO Classified, broadcasting on the best network on the planet, KCOR. I want to give a shout out to Tina because, as you all know who listen every week, I love her. I appreciate what she does to make a very respectful and incredible network. I'm proud to be a part of it. There is no doubt that I have been busy because that seems to be my MO, especially when it comes to researching things that have to do with Utah. As you know, Utah is my home and I'm very proud to be from Utah, but I'm even more proud of my colleagues and people that I turn to, people that have created a cohesive unit. And one of those people is on my show tonight. This is a rare chance for you to hear from Ryan Layton, who has a lot of great Utah stories to tell. But first, I want to just tell you what I have done this week. I have spent the past 2 days at the University of Utah Marriott Library, where I have been going through Dr. Frank Salisbury's collection of archives. And let me tell you, there are a lot of things to go through. But for a researcher here in Utah, to have the opportunity to look through his lifetime of work is an incredible way for me to grow. I will learn things and then be able to preserve that and carry on his legacy. Dr. Frank Salisbury was a botanist, and he was here in Utah. He worked with Junior Hicks, who is very diligent about collecting reports and has been doing that since the 60s up at Skinwalker Ranch and in the Uinta Basin. We have wonderful resources here, so I will be giving you updates on that and everything I glean. I am hopeful to be adding some of this work to my collection. I have a library now with 300 rare out-of-print books, works, research papers by many different people who have come before me and done really important work that needs to be carried on. A big thanks to Barry Greenwood and Jan Aldrich for helping me do this and kind of get it going on here in Utah. Ryan, I want to say that I have been trying to get you on the show for a long time, and I am so stoked.
Okay. Did you want me to come on?
Yeah, come on. That was your cue. I don't know.
No, go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
No, I think
I can be rude at interrupting sometimes. Just ask everybody that knows me.
Oh, no. I kind of like that quality about you. It's good.
So
Thank you for being here. And this is, like I was saying, this is a rare treat because you do a lot of underground work that most people don't know about. What you have done is created...
and above ground, too.
Well, that helps. That's a good thing. But when I was introduced to you from Ryan Burns, who again is another researcher here in Utah that is my friend, your friend. I have a lot of respect for him. But tell us, I want to know how you got in the field.
Well, you mean the UFO, Bigfoot, and everything weird field, right?
Everything weird field. Yeah, you guessed it.
I think some of us are just born being weird. I think sometimes we're just born and wired into pursuing down these pathways. And that might be my story too, and others have experiences as children. Maybe they've been downloaded, whatever. Ryan's had some experiences, Ryan Burns, Utah's own and Las Vegas's own top researcher. He certainly had some experience, for example, as a child, and I think a lot of people do. I can't remember any such as a child growing up, but I was nevertheless I was always kind of curious in things that people always tabooed, like the UFO subject, the Bigfoot subject, and so forth. So that's kind of, my curiosity got the best of me, and that's kind of where I started.
Because you were born to be weird.
Born to be weird. Born WWW. Worldwide Weird. Yeah, we were born to be weird.
You know what? I think I'm going to write a song and get a T-shirt, and I will, dedicate it to you and get you one.
But further on that question, I just to fill in a little bit more here without taking up good quality time here, but no, when I was in the 60s and I was growing up, see, I'm an old timer already. I'm an old hippie that doesn't know what to do, whether to grab onto the old or hang on to the new. Or is it the other way around? The other way around there. But anyway, my dad used to have all these Argosy and True and magazines. And back in the 60s, that must have been only, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I picked up one on the Argosy. They're kind of like the old True magazines. And there was an article in there on Bigfoot. And I read the whole thing. It was quite a lengthy exclusive. And I was just absolutely mesmerized to think that they were having ape-like sightings in Northern California. And that's and I was hooked. And that's where I've done a lot with the Sasquatch field too. It hasn't all just been, UFO related and everything somewhat related to that. So I kind of got my kickoff right then as like I say, maybe a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old.
So it's been with you since you were a child, just like the rest of us.
Yeah, and then in high school, when Chariot of the Gods came out back in the early 70s, I mean, I go to the drive-in and, and watch it over about 2 or 3 times, and then go back a couple more nights and watch. I was just absolutely mesmerized with the, because we weren't getting it in those days. I mean, society didn't teach it. Obviously, your churches don't get into that. Your schools don't teach it. And, I mean, really, where did you go for that type of information? So
be more specific.
What's that now?
So be more specific about what type of information, the ancient alien thing.
Oh, yeah, like Eric von Daniken's movies that came out, Chariot of the Gods, and what was the other one called? Something similar to that. Back in the early 70s, like I say, that was material that wasn't discussed in those days, really, unless you were with some kind of interest group of some kind in those days. Of course, I was very young. But what I'm trying to say, Erica, is that, those type of subjects just spellbound me, and I couldn't get enough of them. And kind of growing up in a conservative climate here in Utah, it was very difficult to find people that were open-minded that wanted to get into these kind of subjects and explore them and, expound upon them. So I had this hunger, for years to find people, persons, places, and things that were oriented this way. So it's kind of a tough go as a kid.
So where in Utah, absolutely, where in Utah, what part of the Utah were you located growing up?
I've spent most of my life right here in my own hometown, so which is Layton, just 25, 30 miles north of you, Erica. And
that is a fabulous thing. I like it that we can be this close. It's too bad Burns doesn't live close, but that's okay. He gets to come up and see us. So when did you what happened with your first UFO case?
I don't know if I can actually remember my first one. It might be a high school one, if I recall correct, the one that I personally did, and that was, back in those days, you just don't jump in. You try to discern. It takes a while when you're not in this field to come to the conclusion that you're dealing with a substance that is real or has, some context of reality to it to some degree. And so there were some kids here in my own hometown that said that they had seen one. I remember that on one summer, clear back in, of course, I was very young then, 69. So I investigated that, and it was just a disc that was hovering in a few different locations, late at night in town and over a power plant, and and that begins to fuel the fire of the curiosity, and then you have to look into their eyes, you have to feel their energy, you have to do all these things when you're first starting out, and even further on down the trail, whether you're getting the straight dope or not. And, based on body language and voice flexion and looking into their eyes, just so I can see who's a Hollywood actor and who isn't. But I would say, Erica, most of the people I have talked to, I believe, have been very, in my career of investigating, I would say that 90-something odd % have been very honest and forward about their experiences. But anyway, that's just a one in my teenage years that stands out. Probably initial one, I would think. So
the other percentage of people, I mean, are they people that are perhaps have mental health issues, or are they people? There's probably a combination of both that are put there to throw disinformation out.
Well, you hear that from a lot of researchers, and so they're real careful, so they don't. Myself, as I've told you before, I can afford to be in it. I'm not afraid to be wrong, and so I can put it out there and that without being reluctant, without representing anybody but myself here. So I can afford to be wrong in a lot of, if I underestimate or overestimate a case. But I would say, no, I haven't really, there's been a few individuals that had colorful imaginations. But I would say really, seriously, which is cool, I would say by and large, even on the Bigfoot subject, I would say just, 90-something high % were probably accurate and correct and very honest in their experience. And so I feel good about that, actually, that most people cooperated with me and never tried to take me, on a rose-colored glasses type of ride, So I would say most of them were indeed telling the truth. In fact, almost all of them, really.
And I mean, I think I agree with you. I think a majority of people are telling their honest, I mean, what they remember, or what they experienced, whether it is something that can be explained later down the road. Of course, you always have to look at that, but they're very small handful of people that are really trying to deceive you or have ulterior motives.
Yeah, well, that's been my experience, I believe. That doesn't hold true for everybody, though.
So when you started investigating, near Layton, and when you're obviously close to Hill Air Force Base, and you've got a lot of knowledge about Dugway and the periphery, what were some of the big cases that really grabbed your attention? Well,
I've mentioned, since, you and I have been acquainted now, 4 months now? 5 months?
Yep.
And so we've had a few conversations on the phone and a couple times in person. I would say probably the mother of all the investigations would have been the 1966 mothership sighting in northern Utah above Thiokol Corporation, the rocket booster program. They have a test facility up in the middle of nowhere, east of Brigham City, a number of miles, near one of the northern arms of the Great Salt Lake, up in that country. We're pretty austere country. But this is an account that occurred to an 11 and a 15-year-old brother and sister. They're probably now, he's probably in his early 60s now, and she was 5 years older. So she would probably be about, I'm guessing, 67, 68, something to that level now, and he'd be about 62 these days. But let me just tell you this, it's a good one. 1966, they were irrigating in the wee hours of the morning like dry farmers will, their wheat up in that country, and put the kids to work. So it's not uncommon, for ranchers or farmers' kids to be up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning irrigating fields and that type of thing. And all of a sudden, they're out in the, and this is austere, mind you, there's no buildings and homes and things like that. Or it's a very austere, open country. So they're irrigating in the wee hours of the morning, and all of a sudden the sky blocks right out right in front of them. They can't see anything, so they panic. Him and his sister panic. They don't know what's going on, and so they dive into the alfalfa, I believe it was. Yes, alfalfa they were growing, and kind of buried themselves in a little bit because they thought, it struck them by surprise, but they thought they were about ready to be crushed, whatever this was. That was just the instinctive move, is just to, hit the turf because something massive is right on us and we're about ready to be crushed. However, they looked up periodically. Now, this passed by. It was a very large craft that he was familiar with the land, what am I trying to say? The points of the land there. It's eluding me the word I want to say here. But based on that, he figures it was at least a mile, if not a mile and a half long in length.
Wow.
Now, they looked up periodically, still on their bellies, buried in the alfalfa, but looking up maybe every few minutes to see if, the threat was over or whatever. And it was slowly going over the top of them, only at about 150 to 200 feet, he would guesstimate, above them. No noise, no pressure gradient pressure, no sound, no nothing like that. With a series of convex and concave lights on this thing. And then they'd go back and bury their head in the, they were still quite convinced that this thing is so humongous. If it sets down, we're crushed. They didn't know what they were dealing with in 1966 at that age. And then it finally passed, but he figured it took a minute, say 15 to 20 minutes to pass directly overhead. And then he could see, with the points of reference in the valley there, that this thing, like I say, was about a mile or a mile and a half long. And then it continued south, I'd say approximately 3, 4, 5, 6 miles to where the rocket Call was located. The rocket booster that works with NASA. It went over that facility, and then just like in Star Trek, went up like a golden streak.
Yes, that is incredible. I mean, that is such an incredible story.
And so you've got to ask yourself, and I truly do believe him. He's an honest man. He runs his own insurance agency today, represents about a half a dozen insurance companies. And he's certainly not going to, and he's told this to some of his fellow agents. Now, any way to be a career loser is maybe to share this with, a variety of, conservative insurance agencies. They might give him the old, he's lost it. But no, he knows, he believes it. He knows what he's talking about. And I, again, when you interview him that clearly in that, the man is telling the truth. And, like I told you, I don't think anybody even has his story written down, let alone been, videoed or filmed. So when you ask me that question, that would be my answer of the mother of all the investigations. I would, just based on the enormity of it and the significance of it. I mean, really, you almost got to ask yourself, Erica, who are those guys?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so were there any other things that you could glean from that? Did anybody else report a sighting at that time, or did you hear anything about Thiokol?
No, but pretty damn well that the security at Thiokol had to have seen that. Now, in those days, I doubt if anybody was awake and alive and up at that time of night other than some irrigating up a dry farm at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. Other than security at Thiokol, say roughly 4 to 7 miles down through the valley there, they had to see it. So that's about the midst of the. It's just something that occurred. You've got 2 witnesses again, even despite their ages, 11 and 15 respectively. Nevertheless, you've got 2 witnesses that got a good eyeful of this thing, taking 15, 20 minutes to pass directly overhead, actually being able to see the concave, convex structures on it. And, and 150, 200 feet directly above, 15, 20 minutes. I would say that's pretty big. That's a hell of if you can put yourself and imagine what that must be like, put yourself in that experience. That is a humongous mothership UFO experience.
And so it sounds like they were terrified. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they were hiding.
Well, no, they ducked down in the alfalfa, belly first down, only periodically looking up every few seconds or handful of minutes. And, because like I say, their first impression and instinct is this, whatever this was, it was so big and humongous and blocked out everything. You have to understand their thinking process. They thought they were going to be crushed.
Right. And even after that, 11 and 15, that's a pretty tender age. It's traumatic enough for somebody who's an adult, but to have that happen, were their parents supportive?
Yeah, I'm sure they were, yes, but up in that region, there's been a lot of other sightings through the years too of different types of things. It's in that general location where I saw my first. I counted them all total with two other witnesses. 20, which is quite common nowadays. Everybody's, Peter Davenport UFO Centers gets them in all the time from all over. It's just overwhelmed. That's the big orange orb sightings, the amber-colored orange orbs that are, they are great big circular patterns. They go off and on. They're all over the damn place nowadays. But
they are. We're going to talk about that because we've got to take a break. I always do this. It's like right at the good point. We're going to.
But we're still having fun here, though, aren't we?
Oh, we always have fun. That is not a problem. And we're going to have more fun when we get back. I'm Erica Lukes here with Ryan Layton. Stick around. The best is yet to come.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
One of the planet's most powerful antioxidant products is here for you to enjoy. Chaga Mushroom Tea. This tea has been used as a potent natural health solution for thousands of years. In fact, the Chinese call it King of the Herbs. The health value alone is worth a look as Chaga Mushroom Tea packs a punch with pure vitality and smooth energy. It's 100% wild-crafted, safe, and effective. Get it now at arcticchaga.com. That's ARCTICCHAGA.com or call 916-969-2678. That's 916-969-2678. Chaga Mushroom Tea. Chaga Mushroom Tea. Order your supply today.
Hi, Vancouver. George Norrie here, inviting you to join me and producer Tom Danheiser on June 30th at the 4th Annual Architects of the New Paradigm Conference. This will be a groundbreaking, jam-packed event featuring Stephen Bassett, Grant Cameron, Richard Dolan, Daniel Sheehan, Johnny Enoch, and Victor Vigiani. You don't want to miss this one, so watch the 3-minute video and get tickets at anpconference.com. That's anpconference.com. anpconference.com.
It's great.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Make a note of it. It's great.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
Well, while we're on the subject, authorities say they visited a North Carolina home this week after receiving a tip about a crime. But the crime they found wasn't the one that resident Cody Zhang allegedly divulged. After a tip came into police last week, possibly related to a cockfighting operation. That's roosters, people.
Yes, we know.
An officer knocked on the door of Zhang's home near Claremont Tuesday, and Catawba County Sheriff Coy Reed tells CBS News whatever the officers were looking for, Reed said it wasn't what he soon found. Zhang opened the door, saw the police officer, and simply said, "I guess you're here about the opium."
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. I am Erica Lukes, always happy to be here. Next Friday, I will not be live because I will be with my friend Ryan Layton, Ryan Burns, Dave Rosenfeld, and a few other of my peeps down at the Utah UFO Festival in Cedar City. So if you are in the area, please come and hang out with us. It's going to be great. I have a 2-hour lecture on Friday night where I will be talking about my work up in the Uinta Basin, some of the cases that I have investigated, and some of the historical archiving that I'm in the process of doing with regard to Utah and my trips over to Hessdalen, Norway, and learning different things. So I hope you can make it. My guest is just a hidden gem here in Utah. Ryan Layton has been investigating for a long, long time. He has interviewed people, and we're going to talk about Skinwalker Ranch in a little bit because this is a great story. But we were talking about when we left the 1966 mothership sighting, an object 1.5 miles wide crossed the field, an alfalfa field in northern Utah, close to Morton Thiokol. And so, Ryan, continue where we left off.
Well, I think I went started on the orange orbs in that location.
Okay, and I want to. Can you just host my show for me then?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Actually, I'm quite proud. I'm really proud of your accomplishments. I forgot you've been to Norway and many different places in the pursuit of knowledge and truth and experience, and you're to be applauded for that. You're very passionate about learning all of this. So I just want to remind your audience you're wired into this. You're very passionate about it. So my hat's off to you.
Well, thank you. And you too. And I love learning from you. And it's just like we have great conversations. And when you talked, you've told me personally about the mothership sighting and then the Thiokol thing and then your orange orb sightings. And so this is all taking place in a pretty centralized location, which is interesting to me. So let's go into the orange orbs.
Well, that was just the general vicinity. This is about fast forward, and we'll leave the 66 experience encounter, and let's fast forward to 2000, 2001. And this is in the same general vicinity, give or take a few miles. And I went out there one evening with a couple of guys from Logan, Utah, because they had said that a rancher out there had seen these orange orbs, large orange or amber orbs, moving freely and doing all kinds of weird acrobatic stuff and whatnot out there. And we thought, well, what the hell? We went out 10 days later on a lark, went for a ride, and oh my gosh. Unbelievable. You can tell I'm from Utah, oh my gosh. Yeah, you can tell, anyway. No, I don't want to sound too Wasatch Hillbilly-ish here, but...
oh, come on.
Anyway, so we go out there, and within the first 15, 20 minutes of being at Promontory Point, let the show begin. This was amazing the first time. Even though they were several miles away, you could see this display. No, they weren't military flares. No, and I'm not going to get into that, pro or con there. These were definitely what they were. I mean, these things were huge. And all total, in about a 45-minute display there of time, we were just going wild from watching it. About 22 all total, or I should say, if they turned off and on and turned back on, I can't say the number based on that. But based on full appearances in their oval appearance, that is, if they turned on and off at different times, approximately 22. Well, that's a bunch. And what made them amazing, though, is they would be on different levels of some low, a little bit higher. And then what was also unique about that is everybody knows what cell division is underneath a microscope. When you see a cell jump out of another cell and create that kind of a look. It was almost like cell division, where one would come out of another and make two. And, that was just really, really strange, to see that kind of a thing.
And I have to say, and sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, that is commonplace. That seems to be the MO for places all over the world. I mean, Hessdalen, the Yakima Indian Reservation in parts of Missouri. I mean, that is the way that this anomalous light phenomena would appear. So those are some of the characteristics.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on. That's spot on, Erica. Yeah. Now, I've seen this stuff since, too. I saw it on 2 successive years on my way to Phoenix Metro, down through the Joshua Tree Highway there, Wickenburg, and up and through that country there. 2 times in a row there, about the same time of year, too, several on both sides of the highway, with military jets seemingly in appearance in hot pursuit. And there were other witnesses, too. And that's 2 years in a row there. And then once out near Dugway, scared me to death one solitary one once. I was out in the middle of nowhere, just took a drive, got tired of the casinos and went over and went way down there on a lark one cold winter day. And here's one particular orb that's about 11 o'clock high over my head, sitting just south of the Dugway complex. And it exploded in a zillion pieces when I was observing it, like sparkles, like the 4th of July. And all of a sudden I thought, oh, whoa. I got a little paranoid, and I thought, I'm sure they don't want us civilians to see what I just saw.
Right.
I thought I better hightail the hell out of here, get back on State Road 375, and get my AESS back to Wendover. So right as I was thinking that, there is another one right in its place. And it, too, exploded in a zillion sparkles and pieces. So, I can't say what that was. I don't know what comes to mind. I don't think of it. For some reason, I didn't think of it as a material object. I don't know why. More of a plasma thing. And maybe it was practice, being gunned down with the laser technology at Doug. I don't know that. I just thought at the time that, being this close to a very protected military installation of that nature, I was thinking if they are experimenting or something else, I'm sure they wouldn't be too hip on, having a civilian witness this right off the border of their of the Dugway complex.
Right.
So anyway, that's just another experience I had there with the orange orbs.
But you had another encounter that was pretty fascinating, and you were a little caught off guard by that in that general vicinity. Can you share that?
That's right. I'll give you I better give you the abbreviated because it is very, very, very detailed here how this came about and what happened. So, yeah, this is probably one of the biggest unknown events of my life here. I went out with two unknowns. One of them I had met a week later, and they had claimed they had seen some certain things south of Dugway, near Ibapaw. Again, very remote country down there, way past the Pony Express Trail that flanks the southern border of Dugway. So at any rate, Dave Rosenfeld was supposed to go with me, and that failed, so I ended up going with them. And as soon as we got off-road, I'm giving you the long version, but I started to feel uneasy. We got the maps out. They were going to show me what they had seen, apparently some unidentified craft and something coming out of some kind of area in a mountainside. And so I was kind of curious to, just be pointed out and have them show me. Well, the energy got weird. And I really couldn't put my finger on it. I thought, something is wrong with this whole mission here. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But I had a very uneasy feeling all the time. I just felt like, this is the long version here, but I felt like my welfare was at stake. That there was, maybe some foul play imminent. And I thought, wait a minute, these two, I didn't know the driver. And I found it odd that they went and rented a brand new SUV vehicle. But anyway, to speed this up, so we go to look at these locations, we have them, and we don't go to them. It's almost like they're stalling for time. And finally, I'm just like, I says, well, are we going to go to these locations? It's getting late, boys. And they wouldn't really respond and cooperate too well. In fact, here we go. I felt like they went into an altered state, actually. And I says, well, let's just forget it. I didn't feel like we were going to go see where these occurrences occurred to them. And but they stalled out for time. And I started to get more and more uneasy. I thought, something is wrong with this show. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, they didn't speak to me. I probably shouldn't tell everything here, but they didn't speak to me. I felt like they went into an altered state. Or somebody had messed with them on a level. I've had thousands of times to try to analyze this. And I says, let's just head out of here, but I didn't know where we were at because we'd gone left, we'd gone right, we'd gone there. So it was kind of confusing. To make a long story short, I finally said to him, all right, who put you up to this? Something is wrong here. And maybe I won't go into great detail here because there's other detail. But basically what happened, the driver finally spoke. And actually I had to spin a cylinder and a weapon in the back to let him know that this is starting to get crazy here. And that I didn't threaten him or anything like that. I just let him know I came equipped. And finally the driver piped up. He says, oh, they'll be here any moment. Now, this wasn't a joke to this extent in time and energy and everything involved. There's something else at play here. Very bizarre, almost Twilight Zone-ish. Well, in fact, it is. Almost Twilight Zone affair here. And he finally says, oh, they'll be here any moment. Now, I didn't know who the driver was. I had not met him. And I says to him, just who do you mean who? Now, I was very highly nervous at that time because something was not right and telling me, my welfare was at stake. Now, whether it was from them or somebody on the ground, without being paranoid or delusional, I didn't know. I didn't expect anything from the air. I really didn't, even though that's what I was out there for, okay, is to hear their experiences, which they never did shoot straight with me. Well, anyway, to make a long story short here, I was keeping track of time on my watch and paying very close attention because I'm well aware of the abduction and missing time factor and all that. which I didn't really feel like I experienced consciously. But I will tell you, there was an unknown object that did appear on the scene. And I thought, oh, hell, be careful what you seek. You might get what you ask for. Because there I am, out in the middle of nowhere, completely vulnerable, with literally two strangers. Good thing I packed a piece of heat with me in case I needed to barter out of a life-threatening jam of some kind. But this thing still kept its distance. It was like 350, 400 yards out on the desert floor in the middle of nowhere. Totally, I mean, what's this thing doing here? It had a white, bluish light. Now, I really couldn't discern the shape to other than it was a strange light that appeared. And I could see the plants and the desert floor on the... And, and the driver started to race toward it. And I gave him an order to put his foot, a bunch of expletives, put his foot on the brake. Well, I reasoned this out, which he did. He obeyed. Well, I'm the one with the gun. He obeyed me. But I think he was also listening to what I'm getting at here. I think these guys were under some altered state of control for something else out there, and this wasn't a joke. It is what, it's a strange experience. I've gone over it, at least 1,000 times in my mind trying to figure out exactly what this evening was about. Well, anyway, I did get out of the vehicle at about 400, 350 yards out from this stationary. It was hovering then. And I put one leg out of the vehicle. I'm kind of telling you more than you need to know here. But I put one leg out, and I had fatigues on. I had shorts on earlier that day. Had an easy day. In other words, I wasn't around plants or fences. I've got the fatigues on, and I'm trying to look at this. I got one hand on a gun and one hand looking at them in case something's wrong with this whole scene. And I'm looking through the binoculars to see if I, can see detail on it. And I couldn't. But really, all I really wanted to do was get out of this situation. Because the cortisone and adrenaline was just dumping into my bloodstream here. I knew something weird was going on big time. Well, finally it moved off, and then we took off, and finally, anyway, I better speed this up. It's a long story with detail, but we finally got through all the little goat trails and eventually came onto the state road. Now, then, conclusion here, without any more of the mitigating circumstances here. The next morning, I got in late. My shin has 3 puncture marks on it. Pretty good puncture marks. I would have known where those would have originated from, unless you're under some type of, amnesia or in a state of shock, perhaps you wouldn't know. But that was not the case. So what I'm getting at here, when you ask me that question, Lomber, I feel something happened to me down there, but I do not have any. I've never got regressed, and I don't have any recall. But I think they zapped me. I think they got something, and how they did it, very high tech, and all that type of thing. I have told you this story. I'm sure that I have.
Absolutely, and it is such a great story, and that I think that it highlights how careful we need to be when we go out with other people. I've done some things, especially. That's the gist of this too. I mean, I didn't expect me to be on the stage of, it's almost like you're saying to God, like, oh, whoa, get me out of this. I'm almost sit out there. I won't even get into this. I don't even care anymore. I just want to get out of here in one piece unscathed, because you feel that type of... It's very hard to relate to people unless you're in that situation and you're vulnerable in the middle of nowhere and you're up against something of this high level, high tech capability. I mean, you have to... I know that most people don't get it, even when you tell them. But, I just wanted to get the hell out of there, get unscathed from the whole thing. But like I say... I didn't even know I'd been tagged until the next morning. And with puncture marks like that, you, under normal circumstances, would have known the origin of such a thing. So that's basically without any further ado, that's essentially the experience. So did you have any further contact with them, or do you know anything more?
No, I did. I couldn't wait to get away from them. Because there was a part of me that was embarrassed that I got zapped out there, believe it or not. And they didn't seem to really shoot straight on some other things anyway. So, and I don't know where the other one came from, and I only got a foggy idea where the other guy. So, no, I never really did have contact with them again.
That's a good thing.
Anyway,
wow.
That's a giant nutshell. Yeah.
And I just have to say again, when you do this, and even when you're at a conference or in different settings, there are always people that come into your reality, and you don't know, A, are they sane? B, are they under some sort of control?
Yeah.
This sounds absolutely crazy, but the more I put myself into this field, and the more really bizarre circumstances that I go through, it's like, wow, it's a trip, and you have to be very mindful of your surroundings.
I'm sure you've got some experiences. If you wanted to put it out there on the public chopping block, you could probably put a few things out there too. I believe that maybe you've encountered.
You know what? I have been pretty forthright, especially if you check Newsweek. And luckily for me, I'll be doing a 2-hour lecture next week in front of everybody in Utah, which will be great. So I definitely will be, no holds barred there. So I try to put as much out, because just like you, it's like you go through these things, and it doesn't do anybody any good to be silent about things that take place, because it doesn't change the field, it doesn't change research, it does nobody.
When these type of traumatic events happen to you, you want to reach out and share with the certain people that you feel will, believe you and accept what you're telling them, and you have to be very careful when you do that, because you are really something out there that if you're looking for that type of support from the wrong person, you even though you know what you've experienced, it's the old cliche, you feel like an idiot, So, it's very difficult to share this with others. They've got to be really in this and be very interested in the phenomena, or I really don't think you maybe should even share this type of thing too much, unless they're ready for it, perhaps.
Well, I think that, I know that all of my listeners, they're very intelligent, they're very thoughtful, they have good boundaries and respect, and I love that about my audience, but they want good knowledge, because this field is so rife with, idiots. What can I say? People that are just trying to take advantage of people, trying to build cult followings, trying to sell databases, trying to make money off of people. And I think it's really I'm glad that I've got good people that understand the way this field has been manipulated. I love it, but we just need to get more education. We need to educate people and tell them where to find good research and steer them in the right direction, because right now, to me, and I'm sure it is to you, we've talked about this, is a really pivotal time in what's taking place with UFO disclosure, or whatever we want to call it. So how do we make sure that we're steering the narrative in a positive and productive way?
Right. Just telling you that story, it jacked my blood pressure about 15, 20 points. Just reliving it, I just having to bring the subject and experience up. So I'm telling the truth. It elevated my BP a little bit.
Dear, you better. I'm glad you're sitting down.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sitting down. Trust me.
Okay. Well, take a deep breath. I know, but it is. It's like you go through this post-traumatic stress disorder. These are terrifying encounters, and I thank you so much for sharing that, because I know you're not very public with your experiences, so I really appreciate it.
Well, you have to have a captive audience, as there's no sense of, getting into this material much. So thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Appreciate it.
I love it.
Appreciate
absolutely. You know, and I do have the best audience in the world, I will say, and I want to give a shout out and a big thanks to Northern UFOs, who is actually not at home. He's out on vacation and he is listening. I hope he is having a great time, but he is responsible and helping me. So Northern UFOs is a great researcher. He's not in our neck of the woods, but he helps. After my radio show is done, he will take the radio show and put it on YouTube. And so I just greatly appreciate people in my audience that want to be involved and that will help me do this, because as you know, this is a daunting task to do research and to do a radio show and lectures and all of this stuff by yourself. So thank you, Northern UFOs, and thanks to you, Brian and Brian Burns, who was listening because I got a message from him. So totally awesome. We're going to talk about Skinwalker Ranch in the Uinta Basin when we get back. We are getting ready to go to break, so stick around. It will be a great night on KCOR. Willie Miranda is up next. Tina Marie and Solaris, Lee Raven. We'll catch you on the other side of the break.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, my friends, to the second half of UFO Classified. You know that I appreciate all of you being here, so please make sure you spread the word. Let everybody know about UFO Classified. I work my tail off to do good research and to bring you people that I feel are incredibly relevant to what's taking place right now. My guest this evening is no exception. In October, I want to tell you that I will be at the Portal to Ascension conference speaking, and I am very excited about this because I will be speaking about my trip to Hesdalen, Norway, where I had the opportunity to work with Professor Elling Strand to see Project Hesdalen, which is a 35-year research project on anomalous light phenomena. I climbed mountains. I worked with the kids at the science camp. I got to hang out with some of the world's leading scientists, and it was a privilege. So if you can be there October 5th through the 7th at the Atrium Hotel in Irvine, California, come and join me. I look forward to that. But next weekend, Layton, Ryan Burns, Dave Rosenfeld, all of my peeps are going to be down at the Utah UFO Festival at Cedar City, and I will be doing a 2-hour lecture about my investigations in Utah, about the historical archiving I'm doing, the research, and important cases. I look forward to hopefully seeing you there. And Ryan, we're going to hang out. We're going to have a good time. We're born to be weird.
Let's go for it.
And I think we're going to be trouble.
You think?
Yeah, I kind of have that sneaking suspicion.
Yeah, maybe they better hire some extra security then.
Well, luckily for everybody there, I'll probably have
I don't know about that. We're still in Utah. You know, you can't have too much fun in Utah or it's felonious.
Well, you know what? I'm thinking we can find our own little corner.
That's just a Utah joke. That's a Utah joke. Okay.
The Wasatch Hillbilly.
Yeah, you like that one, do you?
I do, because I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of my own originals, so.
Well,
yeah.
You are
George
a trendsetter.
George Knapp told me that once. He says, I'd never heard this, whatever it was. He says, I've never quite heard it phrased that way before. Whatever it was, so I took that as a compliment.
I think that is a compliment. And speaking of George Knapp, let's talk about your experiences with Skinwalker Ranch and the surrounding areas. How did you get involved?
Yeah, let's do.
In event? Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, drum roll. All right, here we
are ready.
Ready?
Yep. Do it.
Wow. Well, I had already been out there in the early '80s with Junior Hicks, by the way, who is the original investigator, a resident out there. Junior's probably about 90 today. Time's ticking away through the years. And that was '83 that I'd been out there with him on some locations, and I was well aware of the book that you're aware of, that you've been archiving up at the University of Utah, the Utah UFO display book. Frank Salisbury, who wrote the book. And the first initial book in '75, and I was aware of the content of that and some of the characters and that, and due to my passion and curiosity, I moved in that direction to see what I could learn. And so I hung out with Junior Hicks for a while, and I believe initially in '83. So fast forward 1996. And by the way, Junior Hicks had been on about, incidentally speaking for the audience that may not be familiar with this subject, through the 60s, 70s, and so on, about 400 to 500 personal investigations. That's a ton. That's a lot. It's a very active location in this country, is the Uinta Basin in eastern Utah, near the Colorado border, northeast Utah. Well, anyway, fast forward to 1996. Zach Van Eck, who was a journalist with the Desert News in Salt Lake City, had got turned on to an area, a ranch in the Uinta Basin, incidentally in the Fort Duchesne area, that had its share of UFO and bizarre-related activity being reported. Probably got tipped off by Junior Hicks. I was kind of out of the loop at that time, so I didn't hear any of this from Hicks or anybody else. I heard it through the journalist, Zach Van Eck, who is located in Oregon now, I believe. Anyway, he couldn't disclose to me at the time where this location was. He'd give me bits and pieces, and I was just like drooling at the mouth. I mean, this was like a paranormal Disneyland, the little bit that he was my only source at that time. And I thought, let me know. I got to get out there. He says, you can do whatever you want as soon as this is released. Early Sunday morning, June 30th, 1996. He says, I can't take any chances of this back. This is cool. I'll wait till then. So, first thing, sun coming up in the morning, Sunday morning, June 30th, 1996. Great big exclusive article on it was called the Sherman Ranch in those days. And it's now the Skinwalker Ranch or Adamantium Ranch, whatever you want to call it. And I read that, Erica, and I'm like, wow, you gotta be kidding. This is like a 4-page exclusive. And it covered so much content of the paranormal and metaphysical world, UFOs, cryptic sightings, poltergeists, a little bit of everything. That dimensions and portals can happen through dimensions and portals. And I rushed right out there. Oh, by the way, as the history goes, I faxed that very morning. I used to work closely with Linda Moulton Howe, and I faxed it to her. Yeah, she was living in Philadelphia at the time. So she had already got the APUPI article. By the way, it came out that during the week and that Sunday, and I know the western cities, like Denver, Phoenix, San Francisco, LA, because I heard from people in some of those locations when this hit the news. Of course, Robert Bigelow was in it, about buying it and so on. But anyway, so I was out there that very morning, and I don't know how I did it, but I found him. It's almost like I was guided there. I found the ranch without any problem whatsoever. Rolled right on, saw the wife at the homestead. Where's Terry? He's out there. I said, "Oh, good. Tell him I'm going to drive my vehicle out there." Well, he was a little bit standoffish for about the first 5-10 minutes till I started turning on my warm, cute personality to him. And then, we hit it right off, and then immediately he took me on the magical mystery tour. That's what I call it at the ranch, showing me the different things and I'm like, wow, this is way too much. But at the time I thought, is this guy for real? Is he telling the truth? Is this concocted? I didn't know what to think, initially, because you had a great deal of content of everything, and you don't want to be gullible, And so that was day one, that Sunday with him, and that's where it all started. I was actually on location the day that came out on UPIAP, and nobody knew about anything. And then that very night, here's where we let the cat out of the bag, the genie out of the bottle with her. That very night, I had called Linda Moulton Howe in Philadelphia, and I says, I'm on that ranch, that material I faxed you this morning. Oh, she went crazy wild. Oh, I love you. Oh, thank you. Oh, put him on, hurry, put him on. So that was the end of May, so I put the rancher on, and she interviews him on the phone, and it goes on that night, 90 minutes later, which is amazing, back in the days of Art Bill, on Dreamland in those days. And so 90 minutes later after the phone interview, millions of people hear about the Sherman Ranch. So, your turn, but that's the initial spark right there.
So what did you think about that turn of events?
Wild, amazing, big time. And then you can see what it's become. And then a little bit of the rest of the history, how things started happening. I would just be repeating the cadence of events here that's been already spoken of a number of times, what it's become today. But that was the initial kickoff right there for me.
So with that, and when you saw Bigelow and all of his colleagues come in to the ranch, what did you glean any information out of that? Did you get any more sightings?
No, I wasn't technically allowed on the ranch. You had to be under his auspices in those days. Again, this was June 30th, so they didn't move in technically till September when they purchased the ranch from the rancher. They retained him to do, to raise the cattle and be on the grounds and the irrigation, caretaker and all that type of thing. So I was pretty much not invited then, and neither was anybody else on the outside looking in because, everybody thought that, Bigelow was this big CIA conglomerate, secret, got all types of mischief on their mind organization, all the rumors that spread that were just weird. And, they came in bit by bit there and purchased the ground. And the rest of the stories, I don't want to take up all the time on that because you can read about this whole thing online in several places of the cadence and history of the events there.
But, okay, so what do you know, though, about some of these mystery black Suburbans? Some of the, the black helicopters. I've talked to, Ryan Burns. I've talked to different people who talk about times when there are these vehicles or people seen in the proximity.
Oh, yeah. talked to quite a few eyewitnesses, different locations. Ryan himself on the ranch, even on the ranch, let alone the surrounding area, and in the general vicinity. Within in the entire basin area, even south of Vernal, out in the Red Wash country. So anyway, yes, a number of eyewitnesses have encountered these black Suburbans. So I'll just get right to it. We said we were going to go down a rabbit hole here. So what I think they are, since that's such an active flat.
Hey, Ryan, we can't hear you.
Okay, how's that?
Oh, that is so much better. Don't move.
Oh, boy.
I know.
Oh, boy.
Well,
right.
Okay, so keep on keeping on. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, to get to the meat of the matter, I think it's an agency or non-agency because of the number of sightings and events. I don't want to get into too many of take up all our time here of specific events. Why? They're really quite interesting, though. But you got a number of witnesses in that, and I think they're probably they're highly professional, well-trained, first responders, because that's such a significant location. And they're in charge of probably getting to the area of interest first and foremost, before the public or anybody else does. And I would venture to say, this is, I haven't really done a lot of boots on the ground with this over there. It's just based on the information and trying to make sense of this. They're probably based in a Halliburton warehouse, because there are several Halliburton warehouses over there, and concealed until they're on call for some particular situation that arises. Does that make sense to you?
No, it does. It does. But I mean, it's we've heard lately that there have been a few Men in Black sightings. So what do you make of that? Is this actually factual? What have you heard?
I don't really know conclusively because I haven't been on this, but just trying to make some kind of calculated sense out of the information based on those recent MIB reports. If they are bona fide and correct, and I suppose they are, they come from a couple of good sources stating so. I'm wondering if it's a stage job by the DOD themselves, because they are involved on the location as you look at the individuals, some of the key individuals associated with Bigelow Aerospace and Adamantium, name of the ranch now. So, but on the other hand, based on the description of the MIB visitors this is in the surrounding area, the neighbors telling them to be silent, and they didn't see anything, and not to discuss anything at the ranch or whatever kind of an intimidation type of visit, which is typical MIB. But based with a third character there that seems to be shorter than the other two, one speaks. Now, a lot of this information I was able to glean, not take the glory for it or anyway, from Ryan. He's closer to the source. Ryan Burns, Las Vegas' own Ryan Burns here. He was closer to the source than me. I'm just getting this from what he has given to me. But what's odd about the observance of this is that there was a third party, a shorter individual that looked Asian. That kind of strikes me as a little odd there, a short Asian standing there silently and with a couple of other individuals that are very official looking and intimidating. So I don't know what to make of that. And I was told that they appeared in old-time Black American, the typical MIB protocol here, vehicles. But I don't know to what extent, or I don't even know the make. It depends on the observation capabilities of the neighbors. But anyway, the bottom line here is it was intimidating, and they told them not to speak of any activities or with anybody or anything, or if they see anything to stay. So there's something going on now. Whether it's the real MIB phenomena or another rogue outside agency elite, or the actual alien MIB syndrome itself, I don't really know. It's got to be A, B, C, or D, or all of the above there.
Right.
So
I
can't really say on this recent one.
And that it is very curious, and that we have to talk about the skinwalkers and the Native American presence there, and how important that is, and how much they are very fearful about going on certain areas, specifically the ranch. And I would love to get more information about that. What is your take, before we go to break, on the Uinta Basin? Is the area a portal?
Yes. That's my take, yes. After accumulating all of that, this is what Jacques Vallée is telling Junior Hicks. This all has something to do with the subterranean situation. And my opinion, that was my gut feeling from the get-go long ago. I don't know why. I'm not trying to come across as a top remote viewer or a psychic or an intuitive. But that was still, nevertheless, was my gut feeling from long ago. And I think that's what this all is. It's one of those locations on the earth. It might be ley line, cross points, whatever. It's probably been that way for long before the American Indian even stepped foot on that location. Just due to the Earth's history, what took place prior and, through the course of time. And I would go as far as say that they're, and I don't know this conclusively, but like I said, I can afford to be wrong and throw it out there. And I can afford to be right, too. But I would say that the ET or the reptilian, whatever the case may be, or both, have been in the underground subterranean systems of the Southwest United States for a long, long time.
So do you think...
that location is significant. What's that?
Well, and I'm wondering, because we're hearing a lot about demons and, these underground caverns and people opening portals and letting all the demons out. I mean, you hear some really interesting stuff. So, do you feel that anything there would be demonic?
Yes. If you want to put it on those terms. Yeah, fourth dimensional. Oh, yeah. Portals around the world have the capacity to bring that element in by high volume. That's one of my biggest fears of the end game scenario. It's not just the technology and ET and that. I mean, you can flood these fourth dimensional entities through these portals in legions. Now, I know that sounds like it has a religious connotation, but my opinion, that would be the worst case scenario of the end game purpose of some of these portals. And in the back of my, actually, I hate to say, well, I'm going to come right out. We're going down rabbit hole. I actually think that's what they're going to try to do. It's not so much capturing the technology and being able to time warp and teleport and go through the different. Well, I have to admit, this is way more complex than I can even comprehend.
Absolutely. And we're going to break, and we need to talk about this because in my research and what I've found, I mean, there is definitely an element out there, and George Knapp mentioned it. Harry Reid mentioned it. Yes, we need to talk about this when we get back to break. So from break, I'm Erica Lukes here with Ryan Layton. Willie Miranda is coming up next, and then you've got a great night on KCOR. The best is yet to come because we've only got a half an hour more. We will catch you on the other side of the break.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
In the shadows, a voice cries out. Evidence that you're not alone.
You said my name. What is your name?
Proof that the living and the dead coexist. Or do they? Every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, join writer, producer, and paranormal investigator Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio as he explores, interviews, and investigates evidence alongside some of the best in the paranormal community and beyond.
6 people killed.
Ghost Box Radio, Wednesday nights exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, because the dead don't sleep. Ghost Box Radio.
Monday nights are about to become hauntingly good, as Reverend Sean Whittington possesses the airwaves with Vegas Supernatural. Tune in every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for Vegas Supernatural, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. There's a war raging between good and evil. The question is, which side are you fighting on? Tune in Monday nights as Reverend Sean Whittington sets the new standard for paranormal radio with some of the most influential personalities in the world today. Vegas Supernatural, hosted by Reverend Sean Whittington, every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The one show even the devil doesn't want you to hear.
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
There is a world outside that which we live in. A realm where fact and fiction collide. The Paradigm Matrix. The Paradigm Matrix. Hosted by Willie Miranda. Every Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room.
The 1-hour show that will surely leave you hanging on the edge of the rabbit hole. The Paradigm Matrix explores a universe of topics from UFOs, cryptozoology, conspiracies, as well as all things paranormal.
Enter a world of the twisted and deformed.
Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The Paradigm Matrix, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, where fact and fiction collide. You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. I'm Erica Lukes, always happy to spend Friday evenings with you. When I look in chat and I see Gabe and Bruce Cornett, David Cook, Douglas, Doug Dunn Under, Jeff, Mike, Northern UFOs, I mean, all of these wonderful people, you mean the world to me, and thank you for giving me support and boosting me up and spreading the word about UFO Classified. I have been busy and I've been doing a lot of research. I've collected archives, thanks to Barry Greenwood, thanks to Jan Aldrich, all of these wonderful people. And I now have, in my opinion, the best archive in Utah with regard to the UFO phenomena. So I hope to provide researchers with a great place to learn. I spent the past 2 days up at the University Library looking through Dr. Frank Salisbury's work, and I will be talking about that at the Utah UFO Festival next weekend. But Ryan Layton is here with me tonight, and he has tremendous experience. And Ryan, I mean, like the fourth dimension, demons, all of this religious, all of this undertone. What do you think? What is your gut?
Well, I think I kind of hinted to it there on the last segment, is that it definitely plays its role in the portals. And I think certain organizations and individuals have that high level knowledge, and I think today what is going on is they're trying to open up all the portals for that purpose. Again, this is more than capturing technology. It's humbling to say this, but this is way out of my league. The complexity of this in the world history of trying to comprehend it precisely and exactly how they're going to go about this and what's the end result's going to be, and what the desired objective and goal is here. But it's global, and it's big time, and it's historical, and it's extremely significant. Extremely significant. You don't pump that kind of money into this type of operations, without some real importance and significance involved long term. I mean, let's face the facts. The DOD's in on this deal now. And anyway, like I say, there's probably quite a few others that could expound much more clearly and efficiently on the intrigue and the kind of level of, organizations and individuals that this is attracting nowadays at this time juncture.
So do you feel that there is, I mean, obviously there's this is kind of, I hate to say this, but like a battle of good and evil. There are people that are trying to take whatever this is and weaponize this or use this for malevolent purposes. Maybe this is going out, too far, but could this, maybe this rogue element be looking at specific places where all these events occur and then trying to either enact, maybe, use occult practices.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty. I say you phrased that. Did you say Bruce Cornett's listening?
Yes, he is.
Well, I'm sure Bruce has a real good clue about all of this, and it's just too bad he's not helping me out here, because I would like to hear his explanation to this too. I'm sure it would be very eloquent and probably real close to the accuracy of this whole thing. But yes, in answer to your question, I'd say what you just said is well put. I would agree.
And it sounds like, yeah, absolutely. And it this is when I first came into this in a public sense, and I was trying to research this. Of course, I joined MUFON and became state director, and you get, everybody has their own belief system and point of view. And now that I'm out of MUFON, I definitely believe that they have the MUFON headquarters. There's a deliberate agenda there to sway people perhaps away from the truth of the matter, whatever that is. But I just see some really interesting things happen. And I'm not sure if this is true as to what the research would show, if Bigelow would actually say what that is. Maybe in the new movie that Jeremy Corbell is coming out with, we'll see, we'll glean a little bit more knowledge. But when you've dealt with Bigelow or you've dealt with any of these people, what has been the thought that you've been able to glean from them?
Well, I've never really dealt with Robert Bigelow personally, but I did try to communicate back in the day many times with the former director of NIDS, which is Bigelow's organization, Colin Kelleher. And there for a short term, Bruce Cornett was the deputy administrator? Is that the term they use? Of NIDS, National Institute for Discovery Science. And I remember having 2 or 3 pretty good conversations with Bruce. I really enjoyed that. Down to earth, nothing cryptic about it. Straight out. I really enjoyed my conversations when Bruce was the director or deputy director of operations. Did I answer the question, or did I get off track here?
No, you did. You absolutely did. And so,
you can address that again if I got off the.
No, and so, oh Lordy. So, I mean, what have you had? Lordy. So, have you had any interaction with anybody that would be on Bigelow's team, or have you heard anything? And what is your take on To the Stars Academy?
I'll be honest with you, I don't really know enough yet about the Stars to the Academy. I'm still in the learning process. I can't speak with any authority on that. I'm still trying to gather information about all that situation going on right now. But as far as Bigelow's people, no, George Knapp and I are quite sociable together. We've gone out, sat in the casino bar and have pounded a couple and talked about this type of stuff and in the past. I really appreciated that. But other than that, in trying to communicate with Colin Kelleher back in the past, and then, like I say, I really enjoyed my conversations with Bruce Cornett. But other than that, I can't think of, none of the other personnel. Nobody else affiliated with the organization, personally. Oh, except in the beginning, some of his lady investigators, we would have long conversations. Basically they wanted to know what I knew. I cooperated. That's okay. I'm happy to throw that out there. Back in the early days, in the late 90s, he would have them call me. Some of I don't remember their names. It's been a long time. And just, like you and I have 2-hour conversations about the ranch. So that's about it.
Okay.
As far as that.
So what have you heard about, tell us about skinwalkers. What have you heard from some of the people in the surrounding area with regard to skinwalkers or shapeshifters?
Well, I think the more interesting here, I'll try to answer that briefly, but I think what's more interesting is the hardware and the cryptids that have shown up on the ranch more than the skin. And I'm, John Alexander, Colonel John Alexander, he speaks quite a bit about he's got some papers out on his take on the shape-shifting skinwalkers. That's not really my primary interest. I know I've read about it and I've known about it, and I know why they've named the ranch the Skinwalker Ranch. But we have that knowledge of that morphing. What's the word I want to use when they what's that? Anyway, the shape shifting into those forms, that's been around for a long time. You've got several witnesses, Indians, whites. It's no secret. That is a reality. And that probably plays in on the ranch too. I'm sure on occasion, being the path of the Skinwalker even still today, I'm sure that type of element can appear on the ranch too, being dimensional. Metamorphosis is the word I was trying to. When they go through a physical change like that, it's like black magic. Really, how does this happen? It's like black magic or some type of satanic action energy to go through a metamorphosis like that from one biological person or entity into that shifting. It's a very bizarre. It's got to be something on that level. Really, how else could something metamorphose and change physical content into something of that nature? It's been around a long time, as you know, Erica.
Absolutely.
And, there's a lot of experts in the field that can give you a lot of blood-curdling stories about the Skinwalker. I'm more interested myself in the the multiple Bigfoot sightings that have been there and other places, and how that the modus operandi, SOP, standard operating procedure of all of that stuff, and the hardware, the actual physical hardware that showed up on that ranch. That's what's amazing too.
So talk about that.
Well, I think one that really stands out is when the Sherman family, the ranchers, had their it was either a gun scope. It was a spotting scope on a craft that landed out in the middle of the pasture that you can see clearly from the ranch house, several hundred yards out. But still, with a scope, you can get a lot of detail. Well, there's a disc out there one particular time, and an individual, I remember so distinctly him telling me this too. He said a Shaquille O'Neal type character is the way he phrased it. In other words, a darker, bulkier, heavier individual that was standing outside of this craft in that pasture that had a shiny thing on its forehead, like a visor or something of that nature, that stood out that he thought was awful odd. And so, that's pretty amazing, you're able to observe something like that for a length of time. So, that's a good example right there. And, there's countless other examples, too, of the hardware, of the actual physical craft, on that ranch.
So did you ever hear, this has kind of been like folklore. There was a portal that opened up and some creatures stepped out and these creatures were fired upon.
Now, where was this now?
So this was at Skinwalker Ranch, and this has been this has been a big myth, I think, that has been circulated.
Are you talking about the one with the big yellow eyes that was spotted?
I'm not quite sure. I just heard about a portal that opened up and there were creatures that got out and the security guards supposedly opened fire on it. And that did not work out for them. But this is kind of one of those myths.
I don't know about them openly. I know about those little portals that have opened up.
So tell us about that. So tell us a little bit more about the portals.
That's an older one going back years, the one where they were up on the mesa there, up on the ridge, and watched that faint yellow light, tubular light, about 3 feet off the ground, and I forget exactly who was present at that time. Kelleher might have been one of them, if I recall. And a huge, bulky, dark individual slipped out of this little pillar-like, tube-like formation in this dull yellow light, and scared the bejesus out of them, and then in a few moments was out of sight. But I don't know of them firing on that. So no, there have been some shots at some cryptids. When you get into the history of it, the wolf situation, you can read about that. Most anybody, if they want to read about all these different incidents, there's plenty of materials online. Now, I don't feel like probably they'll probably retain more if they get online and read about all of these different sightings, of the wolf being the supersized wolf that was shot at, or the so-called large yellow-eyed dinosaur type that they fired at. I know about those two, but that's the only shootings I'm aware of.
Okay, and that's interesting. And so Bruce Cornett is on the line, and we've only got 6 minutes till the end of the show. But Bruce, I know you wanted to join in. Bring it on. I know exactly. So Bruce, how are you?
I'm fine, Erica, and it's good to talk to you again, Ryan. We have catching up to do. You brought in all of this information concerning portals and what comes through portals. Did I tell you about the Wanacue vortex or portal in New Jersey?
No.
This was investigated by Brian Williams and Tommy Sinisi back in the late 90s, and then investigated by the CIA. And I was there at that transition when the CIA got involved because they were very interested in that portal. And they had manufacturers or industry that wanted to put instrumentation in there and send it through that portal. And we actually have photographs of it opening up and alien beings walking through the portal. So these portals occur in many different places. And I have some extraordinary images that I'll be more than happy to share with anybody who wants them, that of the things that we caught on camera. Actually, Brian Williams had a technique that he had a digital camera, and he was very psychic. And when he would know when the portal opened, he wouldn't be able to see it, and he would be standing near it, and then he would point the camera and take a shot. And on his camera, with the image of the entity would appear. It was quite amazing. So that was one of the reasons why the CIA was very much involved with him and interested in him and hired him.
Yes. Interesting, yeah.
So it was sort of like an analogy to what was going on in Skinwalker Ranch. And when I was at NIDS, I heard a lot of stories from Colin Kelleher about what was going on. Most of them have been revealed by George Knapp in his videos online. So anybody who's interested in hearing amazing stories about the entities and the big wolf, etc., should go online and watch those videos.
Right. Now, you knew that Joe Montague, the remote viewer? How do you pronounce
Joe McMonagle, yep. Joe McMonagle, yep.
McMonagle, yeah. Now, he remote viewed the ranch years ago, and he said, I'll get right to it, he said the southwest quadrant of that 480-acre parcel was an underground subterranean base and tunnel system.
Well, isn't that what I told you, Erica? I just said there's something underground there.
Well, and that has been what several people have suspected. There have been reports over the decades of underground noises, which there have been in Hessdalen, in Yakima, in many of these places. So how does that fit into everything? I don't know.
Can I interject here again real quick?
Yes.
Sorry. Here's something that most people don't, there's so much more to this that's never been discussed. Nobody seems to really know. Did you know there was another billionaire out there doing the same, doing more clandestine stuff, 35 miles west of the chain?
So let's talk about that. So who is this mystery man? Well, we've got like 4 minutes, so you got to pack it in. So who is this mystery man?
We need to do a part two here, and let me throw something else. Let me throw the startling things in here to go out with more of the bang. Now, there's another ranch over there on the other side of the basin that is supposedly being run by Russians, and it's been reported. Now, we don't have time to get into why, but they've been conducting supposedly, from the inside sources here that have leaked, teleporting experiments. Now, this is a big ranch. This one's 6,700 acres. And there's, like Ryan Burns has said, he's had some experience there he can elaborate on. But he suspects there's probably as much, if not more, activity possibly going on in that location that nobody discusses. Nobody will talk about it. Nobody will get into this. And that's on the other side of the basin, approximately to the west of there. I'd say maybe 30, 35 miles from Skinwalker Ranch.
Well, and I
so
just
how do you like that?
say, well,
there's a breakthrough piece of information right there.
That was pretty good, and I will say that I have talked with different witnesses, people that live in the Uinta Basin, and there are places that appear to be equally as active as Skinwalker Ranch. So what is going on? Why is the Uinta Basin so special? And why are certain places like this all over the world so special? Why are we seeing the same types of sightings repeatedly, decade after decade, in the same areas? And how much does the government know?
Well, they know. Bruce can tell you, but they know a lot. You don't have a DOD influence and a Russian influence over there without this being global significance. And the
government is very involved. Very involved in this.
What's that?
The government is very involved. They have known a lot. They have retrieved many crashed craft, and since the 40s. So there's a lot of information that's coming out that's being disclosed now about all of this, just how much the government actually knew.
And it will be interesting to see where this shakes out.
I have been told by insights, I hope this doesn't get me in trouble, but I've been told, and I've read this too by inside sources here, pretty good sources I would say, the Russians have been handed the baton on the teleportation on the planet. They're in the famous Transylvania place there in Romania. I forget what they call that.
Vladimir Imperial's castle. I mean, you got...
Well, there's a big term for it. Anyway, this stuff is global. And again, as far as the Uinta Basin's concerned, that's been over there for who knows. It could have been, this stuff's probably been over there for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. And it's connected to the Southwest.
Well, you do realize, Brian, did I tell you about the underground alien probe that I discovered when I did a magnetic survey in the Walco River Valley? It's a huge probe, only 9 feet below the surface, embedded in 420-million-year-old rock, and it's still sending signals out into space every day.
That's what I mean, this kind of thing, yes. I faintly remember that.
And so that this, basically, we have aliens that have been on this planet ever since complex life evolved.
Well, if you take the Anunnaki story, you're going back 300,000 years.
Right. So, I mean, we're the latecomers. We're the new guys on the block.
Oh, absolutely. I know. That's what makes this... This is what makes it quite mind-blowing. We're the latecomers.
Absolutely, and I just want to thank both of you for being here tonight, and Bruce and Ryan. You guys both know so much about the Uinta Basin, and Ryan, I will look forward to seeing you next week at the Utah UFO Festival. So thank you very much. I hope you guys all have a great evening. Absolutely, it was a great night. So stick around for Willie Miranda.
Great catching up with Bruce Cornett again.
Yeah, we'll do it again. Have a good night. Stick around for Willie Miranda, Tina Marie, and Solaris Blue Raven. I'm Erica Lukes. I won't be here next week because I'll be lecturing, but I will catch you the week after. Have a good night.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.